As the muscle-bound monster was finally defeated, Jisoo's surgery was also completed. Ikkyung handed the old man an inhaler for his asthma and then went straight to Eun-hyuk to ask about Hyun-soo. But Eun-hyuk didn't answer. Instead, he asked her about what was happening outside. The truth was harsh. The military had only let Ikkyung return because they needed Hyun-soo's location. It was the only way she could see her husband again. To confirm Hyun-soo's mutation, Ikkyung walked up and slashed him across the arm. The wound healed instantly. Hyun-soo was confused. Ikkyung didn't hide anything. She explained everything to Hyun-soo about how the military was hunting special infectees. Meanwhile, changes were happening elsewhere. The supermarket owner's wife began showing symptoms. She had spent half her life suffering under a cruel husband, and now, just when he was gone, this happened. Kind-hearted to the end, she offered to leave voluntarily, but everyone knew her, and in a rare moment of unity, they all raised their hands voting for her to stay. Still, she chose to move into the isolation room. She walked up to Hyun-soo and said these words.
어떻게 버텼을까? 이제 알았는데 해줄 수 있는 게 없어. 못난 어른이라서 미안해.
Because satellites were now useless, the military had given Ikkyung a GPS tracker. If she pressed the button, they would find her instantly. Ikkyung was torn. If she pressed it, she could save everyone, maybe even save humanity. But Hyun-soo would be doomed. If she didn't, they might all die, and she would never see her husband again. Just as she hesitated, a stranger burst in. From the look of him, he was a deserter and he kept mumbling the same thing, "Run. You have to run." When the sun rose, Jisoo finally woke up. Seeing Jae-hyun by her side, she opened up her heart to him, just when everyone thought they could finally have a moment of peace. But the arrival of the soldier changed everything. His radio suddenly crackled to life. Ikkyung, worried about giving away their position, smashed the device immediately. She also told Hyun-soo to take down the SOS signal from the rooftop. In a world like this, there was one thing even scarier than the monsters: humans. After dealing with the immediate danger, Ikkyung found the supermarket owner's wife. But just as she started to say, "If you can hold out for 15 days," the woman began bleeding heavily. At the same time, Hyun-soo, returning from the rooftop, ran into the security guard. The last thing the guard had eaten was the rotten fish given to him by a resident. Now, his face was crawling with flies. Hyun-soo saw him get into the elevator. A bad feeling hit him instantly. He raced to sound the alarm, but it was already too late. As he rushed downstairs, Sang-wook was ambushed by a mutant. Hyun-soo made a desperate leap, but he had overestimated his body's healing ability. No matter how fast he could heal, falling from the rooftop wasn't something he could recover from right away. The elevator doors opened. The security guard came face to face with the woman who had given him the rotten fish. Jae-hyun charged in, fighting to save her. In the struggle, the guard's lawnmower blade sliced off Jae-hyun's arm. Without hesitation, Jae-hyun threw himself at the guard, dragging him into the elevator. They both disappeared inside. Jae-hyun's death hit hardest for Jisoo. Before the battle, he had confessed his feelings to her, and it hit Sang-wook too. Jae-hyun had been one of the few who accepted him, even when he sneaked into the store for a drink every now and then. In a world like this, real friends were rare. Now, one of them was gone. Amid all the grief and confusion, they gave Jae-hyun a final farewell. A car sped toward their shelter and screeched to a halt. A group of armed men stormed out. Without hesitation, their leader shot the deserter dead on the spot and ordered his men to round up every survivor they could find. One by one, the survivors were dragged into the open. One of the thugs drew a circle on the ground and sneered, "Step out of line, and you die." When a girl stumbled and couldn't move fast enough, the gang leader shot her without a second thought. The brutal search continued. One thug with a nose ring found Jisoo. He was twisted, poking at her wounded arm, ignoring her pain. Before things got worse, a man named Myung stepped in, forcing the thug to back off for now. Learning that Eun-hyuk was the shelter's leader, the gang leader offered him a choice. Unlike useless cowards, he wanted survivors who could think. After a moment's hesitation, Eun-hyuk stood and walked over to the man. They approached the supermarket owner's wife together, but the leader didn't care. He thought Eun-hyuk was too soft. and with that, he killed the supermarket owner's wife. The poor woman had been fighting so hard, with just a few days left to reach the 15-day mark, but in the end, she was killed. Not by a monster, but by another human. The gunshot tore through the silence. Ik-young and Sang-wook could no longer hide. They led a desperate charge. The others followed, but fists were no match for guns. They lost. In the chaos, Hyunsu's secret was exposed. He was a special infectee. But then the supermarket owner's wife, who should have been dead, appeared again. Her eyes were empty, hollow. She attacked Hyunsu without warning. Hyunsu realized she wasn't human anymore. With no other choice, he was forced to kill her himself. After that, the thugs seized Hyunsu and dragged him up to the rooftop. Meanwhile, the thug with the nose ring smelled disinfectant on Yuri and tried to drag her away for something far worse. But Yuri struck first. Jisoo helped. Together, they killed him. On the rooftop, the gang leader joked about how they should kill Hyunsu, but Hyunsu ignored him. He walked calmly to the rooftop door. Thinking he was trying to escape, the gang leader fired a shot, but Hyunsu wasn't running away. He slammed the rooftop door shut and locked it, saying, "No one leaves." Before they could react, Uimayon revealed his true nature. He was a special infectee, just like Hyunsu.
너 해줘?
아니요. 괜찮습니다.
The surviving thugs tried to escape downstairs, only to find the lower floors back under Eun-hyuk's control. Hyunsu led Uimayon to the room where the mutated woman lay, still nurturing her monstrous child. Posters fluttered across the rooftop, offering rewards for betraying special infectees. Uimayon whispered to Hyunsu, "If they see these posters, they'll sell you out without a second thought." Under his manipulation, Hyunsu chose to abandon his teammates. When he returned, the others thought he had defeated the invaders. Instead, Hyunsu pointed at Uimayon and said, "He's an infectee too." Only then did everyone finally back off and stop targeting him. In the quiet, Uimayon told Hyunsu everything. He had once been captured by the military, used as an experiment. They had tried to separate the monster from the man but failed every time.
그때 난 깨달았지. 아! 이건 진화구나. 나를 선택받았구나. 인간들은 실패했어. 실험뿐만이 아니라 자연에서도 도태되어 버린 거야. 받아들여. 어차피 인간과 우린 공존할 수가 없어.
Uimayon wasn't wrong. Even a monster that had once saved a little boy had been hunted down and destroyed. For the first time, Hyunsu started to believe him. When Eun-hyuk tried to talk to him, Hyunsu showed refusal for the first time. Eun-hyuk called out to Uimayon. Uimayon wouldn't stay here for long. After all, the military would soon come to sweep through this place. Based on what he knew about the military, they would rather kill 1,000 by mistake than let even one potential mutant go. The seriousness of the situation was beyond Ik-young and Eun-hyuk's expectations. Ik-young finally stopped hiding and revealed the truth about the tracking device. But what they didn't know was that the curly-haired man had overheard their conversation and pressed the tracking device.
여기서 죽을 순 없다고.
Meanwhile, Dusik suddenly had a nosebleed during the earlier fight against the gang. In order not to hurt others, Dusik chose to return to room 1408. Facing the mutated woman inside the room, Dusik himself also began to change. The next day, Yuri had an asthma attack. Sang-wook, despite the danger, wanted to take her outside to find medicine. However, he was stopped by Uimayon. Uimayon was afraid Sang-wook would report them to the military, but Hyunsu knew that Sang-wook would never do such a thing. For Hyunsu's sake, Uimayon let them go. However, Sang-wook had barely run a few steps before Uimayon changed his mind and shot both him and Yuri dead. Right after that, he pointed his gun at the others and carried out a brutal massacre. Uimayon was already disappointed by Hyunsu's mercy. At that moment, he no longer intended to cooperate with Hyunsu. Coming to Hyunsu, Uimayon revealed the truth. It turned out that the supermarket owner's wife was already dead before, and it was Uimayon who had killed her.
그거 사실 나였거든.
At that time, the supermarket owner's wife was completely dead, and it was Uimayon who controlled her body and made her walk up to Hyunsu. Upon learning the truth, Hyunsu chose to stop resisting the monster inside him. In an instant, the fully awakened Hyunsu emerged, and a scorching heat filled the entire room. Ui Myung had no strength to resist at all. To awaken the rampaging Hyunsu, Dusik chose to sacrifice himself. Hyunsu woke up again. He looked at Dusik's body but couldn't remember who he was. However, tears kept streaming down his face uncontrollably. Hyunsu had lost his memory. From a distance, Eun-yu secretly watched him. She had finally started to develop feelings for Hyunsu, and even used a trick to get him to agree to one of her conditions. Eun-yu didn't know how to describe her feelings. The sun rose once again. The old man was gone. Compared to others, his passing was painless. Before he left, the old man found a secret passage. This passage could offer everyone a chance at survival. Just as everyone was filled with hope, the monster that was supposed to have been eliminated by Hyunsu turned out to be still alive and even drove off in the thug's old car. On a snowy night, the military arrived. Hyunsu knew they had come for him. He walked out on his own, while the others hid inside the secret passage. Eun-yu noticed Hyunsu hadn't come, and wanted to go find him, but Eun-hyuk stopped her. Eun-hyuk promised her that he would bring Hyunsu back. Eun-hyuk lied to his sister. When he met Hyunsu, he didn't try to persuade him to stay. Eun-yu soon realized that her brother had deceived her. Eun-hyuk had once said his desire was to protect everyone. He put on his headphones, played his favorite song, and looked at a photo of himself with his sister. Nosebleed dripping, he sat quietly as the building collapsed and buried him. Meanwhile, Hyunsu walked alone in the snow, his body riddled with bullets fired by the military. As he stumbled forward, memories from the past flashed before his eyes. After a long time, when Ikyung and the others finally climbed out, the military was already waiting. The survivors were rescued. They boarded a truck heading toward a shelter. As for Hyunsu, he was also taken away. But the one who took him was Sang-wook. Season 1 ends.